Welcome to Here Where You Belong, your go-to podcast for exploring belonging with your host and belonging expert, Dea Irby. We are thrilled to have you join us. Together, we'll dive into the depths of what it means for each of us to find our own place in the world, whether it's within our communities, our relationships, or within ourselves. Today's episode is meant to inspire, uplift, and remind you that no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. So, grab a cozy spot and settle in. Welcome to Here Where You Belong.
Hello, awesome belongers. Welcome home to Here Where You Belong podcast. Today I'm so excited to introduce you to someone whose message is so aligned that there's no question they have found their place here to share their stories. I'm Dea, your host, and our guest today, Albert Bramante, is amazing. Get ready to be inspired and blessed. Welcome, Dr. Albert. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I am really happy to be here and to chat with you and share whatever I can, with the audience.
Awesome. Well, belongers, I know a little bit more about our guest that I'd like to share. He is a talent agent and a performance psychologist and mindset expert who has spent over 20 years helping high performers, both in the entertainment industry and beyond, conquer their mental roadblocks. He is the author of Rise Above the Script, Confronting Self-Doubt and Mastering Self-Sabotage for Performing Artists. Now, anybody that's a performing artist needs this book. We all have to deal with self-sabotaging mindsets. He has a PhD, yay, in psychology and certifications in hypnosis and NLP, and I think we want to talk about that some. He bridges the gap between talent, business success, and the psychology of peak performance. In every endeavor, community is extremely important. See, I told you he belonged here. He runs his talent agency as a family because you belong in a family, and also creates an inviting atmosphere in his classes. He has he's done this for over 25 years and worked with several hundred actors and educated thousands of students over the years. So we are very blessed to have with us Dr. Albert Bramante. Whew, did I cover it all?
That was a fantastic intro. I am so amazed. I almost want to meet this guy myself now, but anyway.
Yes, it sounds so good. You can't wait to meet the person, right?
Exactly. I want to meet this guy. So, but no, that was a wonderful introduction, and thank you again for inviting me.
You are welcome. Well, as you know, this is a podcast about belonging. And all of us have a need to and a story about belonging. And you are here to tell your story of belonging, how you found it, how you didn't have it and did find it, how you had it and lost it and found it, or also how you create a sense of belonging for the communities you work with. The mic is yours. Albert, take it away.
If this was an answer on a test, I would probably say D, all the above. So for me, I was always, and I'll start earlier. So I was born a kind of unicorn as a child, in a sense, where I was the youngest. I'm the baby of the family, and I was different. I was not, my whole brothers and sisters were athletic, at the athletic events, football, basketball, baseball, all of the sports. I wasn't. I was more into books, reading, watching movies, watching TV. That was my source of joy and my sense of enjoyment growing up. So I did, I had a good relationship with my brothers and sisters. They treated me well, but I did feel at times I didn't belong because I wasn't, I had no athletic prowess, nor did I have any interest in learning how to play sports. I have very poor hand-eye coordination, so I can't even throw a ball in the straight direction. So I didn't fit in, but I enjoyed going to the library. Nobody else shared that with me, growing up. But I enjoyed going to the library, and that was my time to get away. It was like my haven, my sanctuary. So, I'm an avid reader, and even to this day, I'm an avid reader. So, growing up, I when I started teaching, when I started, opening my company, I thought to myself, what can I do that was missing in my realm? Like I enjoyed the classes the most where I felt involved, where I felt connected, to not only to the professor or to the teacher, but also to the other students. So it's like I want to create that same format for my students so that they can feel what I enjoyed and what I thrived on. And so, what I would do is I would often in my classes, I would learn the student, make it a point for me to learn the students' names and to address them by their names as much as possible. That alone, that little step, this is why I always say it's important to learn people's names and to address people by their names, because saying a person's name is really powerful. And one of the authors that I like, one of the classic authors that I like, is Dale Carnegie, who the classic book How to Win Friends and Influence People, and he, had a whole section about that, just calling people by their name. You see their name tag, like let's say you're going to the store, or you're ordering, coffee, and you see the name tag of the barista. Always mention their name, and that's one way to kind of foster that belongingness. So I wanted to give back. So that's in a sense belonging. Now on the talent agent, I represent actors. Now, the entertainment industry is a very complex industry, where it's in one hand it's exciting. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of things that are happening, but it could also be very challenging and very tough because it's very highly competitive. There's 500,000 over 500,000 actors just in the United States alone, and only a limited number of roles. Unlimited number of acting jobs. So only 1 or 2% are really going to be the ways the statistics work and the odds work. Only 1 or 2% are going to be successful working actors. Working enough where that's all they can afford, that they can live off of their acting. So most actors need survival jobs. Most actors need other avenues of wealth to survive. So it can be a very challenging experience. So when I started my agency, I was like, I want to run this like a family. So I created like a Facebook group, which is still operates today, where all of my clients that are with me are in part of that group. So therefore, anytime they want to post questions, they want to post success stories, we post, we'll use that. And then, it's a little challenging now, but prior to COVID, we would have a couple times a year, we would have gatherings, which were like, with a happy hour or a karaoke event where we just sat together and just, had fun, but was all in the same room. And it created.
Is this a private group or can anyone join it? Do they have to be your?
Yeah. It's private for that reason. I want to keep it small and I want to keep it nurturing. But I also, what I do publicly too, is I create a lot of content for social media. So I'll do, occasionally I'll do live streams on Instagram or live streams on Facebook. I'll also do, some posts here and there to kind of, reach more globally. But I wanted to create the community, at least for my clients first, as priority. Maybe down the line that could be, something creating something more global than that reach down the line. But I wanted to make sure that my clients had access to me and access to kind of each other within the agency. So that was kind of my way of creating that community that I kind of had and didn't have. So like I said, that's why when you were asking those questions in the beginning, I kind of said all of the above, because I did have that, but I also was missing that, community growing up. Like I said, I was a different child. I was not, I don't want to say I was ostracized because my family did love me and care for me, but I felt different, growing up. I was a nerd, book nerd, a bookworm, and they were all athletes and, really had no interest in school. And so they would hang out with each other. It was kind of like, I would just maybe tag along sometimes. So it was a bit of a challenge. So I wanted to create just some sense of belonging within the communities I'm a part of. So that's kind of like a, long-winded answer of what of how I started and what belonging means to me. And I feel like as social animals, we're the crucial thing that's required is, for us to belong and us to be a part of something.
We are created to live in community. And there's a reason why that powerful song, No Man is an Island, or that statement, No Man is an Island, is true.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to be in community. And so what
Yeah.
is, do you have any stories of feedback from your people that are in your group that the group has made an impact on them? I know I'm
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely I've received a lot of appreciation over the years for that, and I did receive several compliments over the time that I was the only agent that did that. Because a lot of times, agents kind of look at actors as commodities and money makers, and performers are kind of like their cash cow or the lottery ticket, and that's all it is. And for me, I always said, no, I'm going to look at this as a human being. Yes, of course, I do have to meet the bottom line at the end of the day. However, we're still human beings.
exactly.
And
That's the same thing in real estate. You can look at your buyer or seller as an opportunity to make money, or you can help them feel like they belong and know their value and call them by name, like you said. Yes.
yeah, of course. And that's very important. Even as a college professor, I've had a lot of students over the years, compliment me later on if they graduated, and I would run into them somehow in the community, and they would tell me that my course was the best, made them feel really welcome, and it was the best experience that they had, and that alone is the best reinforcement when I hear both of those, stories from both sources of my involvement. So I know I'm going on the right direction.
Well, understanding from an NLP, and would you like to take a brief second? Because not everybody knows what NLP is,
Sure.
what it is, and how it's used, or what now you're certified in it.
Yeah. Well, neurolinguistic program is using the power of the mind combined with language to impact our behavior and impact our thought process, and to create even pathways in our brain that change our minds. So one of the first things I would kind of say is that reality is subjective, and this can sometimes trip people up, but everyone's reality is different. There's no such thing as an objective reality. So you and I could see the same movie and have different viewpoints. I could think it was the best. You could think it was not so good, and the important thing is we're both correct. In a sense. Um, we've had I've had sometimes where I talk to have an interaction with someone, and then somebody else who was in that part say they were really cold. I'm like, no, they weren't. And however, it's their reality. So one of the rules is like this kind of set. One of the rules in NLP is a map is not a territory. So our map, because our reality is covered by our own perceptions of things, our own filters, in a sense.
Right.
So very often, like one of the things we, especially when I talk to students or with actors, and I meet someone who's rude or abrupt or cold, and one of the things that I often tell reality, coming from an NLP standpoint, and that reality thing is that it may not have anything to do with you. It's their filter. It has, maybe you remind them of somebody that they didn't like, or they just had a bad day and they were coming out angrily at you. Maybe that's just a mannerism of speaking. So one of the things we kind of do is kind of separate the emotion out of it. Separate. Take the emotion away from it, and look at what objectively happened. Um, and then take away work on it. It's your perception of things. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes what we do is we set up mental traps in a sense for ourselves. We call those deletions, distortions, and generalizations. So what I mean.
All right, repeat those. We call those what?
Deletions, distortions, and generalizations. So
deletions, distortions, and generalizations.
Yes. So we will tend to forget the good things that sometimes happen to us. So let's say hypothetically, you get 15 compliments, about your work, whatever it is you're setting out to do. People love it. But then you get one or two that are critical or biting. We have a tendency to forget the 15 good things that we just heard and start dwelling fully on the negative.
Yes.
And that's what I mean by kind of like deletion. And then we distort things. Like, I can never do anything right. That's a distortion because
Right.
you had to do something right. Even if you just got up and you did something right. So we distort things, and then we generalize like, everything is going wrong. We mean it. So one of the things we often do, and this can sometimes get a bit annoying, but funny annoying, is like when somebody says, everybody, is out to get me. I'm like, you mean everybody? So you've talked to everybody on the planet Earth, and they're out to get you? Yeah, then they laugh. I'm like, yeah, you see. So it's that's where like using language, it can affect our neurology in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Now we talk about the negative, we can also use it for positive signs too. So the language we use in ourselves, whether it's to whether when we communicate to somebody else or even internally, our own private speech, I would say be mindful of the language you use. So, like, for example, when somebody's an actor, I always say you always introduce yourself as I'm a professional actor. You don't tell someone you're a starving artist. You don't tell someone you're struggling. You're a working professional. Or the same thing is like, or I'll go to conferences sometimes and I'll hear, yeah, I'm a budding speaker. I'm an aspiring speaker. No, you're not. You're a speaker.
You're a professional speaker.
You're a
If you
professional
got
speaker.
paid, even if it was $50, you're a professional speaker.
Or if you got the training, if you took some classes in public speaking, or you took some classes or you're certified, you're a professional. So why are you saying you're aspiring or you're budding? Because you're sending messages to your unconscious mind, your deeper mind. There's two parts of our mind. There's the conscious mind, which we're in control of. That's what we're doing right now. But then there's the unconscious mind or subconscious mind, which runs our behavior almost on automatic pilot, and that we're not completely aware of, and that triggers us. So your subconscious mind listens to everything you say. So if you say, I'm a struggling artist, well, then I'm going to create struggle for you.
Right. Your cells are eavesdropping on your thoughts. And it makes a difference. Wow. This is so good. And already we have made it the first half of our session. And all of this is so important because what we say to ourselves and what we say to other people creates belonging or destroys belonging. And it is so important. Dr. Albert, we will be right back, dear believers, belongers, after this brief message.
Yay.
Hey there! Isn't my guest amazing? So glad you joined us today. In this world that often feels disconnected, building community and fostering belonging are essential. That's why I created this podcast, to bring inspiring people to you, to encourage you to create that sense of belonging and community, no matter where you are. If you're being blessed by my guest, and we have some more, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. You know who needs to hear this. Stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember, you belong. Now, back to our amazing guest. Hey, belongers, we are back with the fabulous Dr. Albert Bramante. And on the second half of our sessions, I like to ask my three favorite questions. And the first one, which I sort of given away, is I ask my guest, what do you consider is your greatest accomplishment? And what do you say to that?
I would have to say the biggest accomplishment was earning my PhD in 2015. And it's been an amazing accomplishment. I worked incredibly hard for that. And I was the first one in my family to go to college. So not only did I go to college, I also went all the way and earned a doctorate degree. And I feel really amazed by that process. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, but it was well worth it. And I part of the challenge is I'll kind of be completely transparent here. When I was I was a premature baby, so I had a lot of struggles when I was at the first couple of years of my life. Both physically and a little bit perceptually. Although I was pretty, average to a, slightly above average IQ, I still struggled. I still had my obstacles, and I had some teachers that would doubted whether I was going to make it through school and kind of life. And so I feel like this is the biggest accomplishment on my end.
Absolutely.
So I'm really proud of that. And this is like one of the things I use this to inspire my students and my clients is that there are no limitations. If you think about it, the only limitation that we are self-contained most of the time. I mean, yeah, there may be some barriers, but there's ways around them. There's ways to overcome them.
So okay, you already mentioned that you love to read, and I'm sure there is much reading when you're working on a PhD, right?
Mm-hmm.
And writing. What are the qualifications of a person seeking a PhD? If someone is considering it, that you would say, well, if you're considering it, do you have this quality or this whatever? What would you say?
There are a couple. I would say first, pick a field or pick a subfield that you're really passionately interested in. So because that it will not seem as work. And so you're also part of the PhD is you're gonna have to write a dissertation, which is almost a book. Pretty much a book. It is a book. So you're gonna have to write that, and that's gonna be a lot of your time, especially toward the end of the program. So what I often say is pick a topic, pick an area, a question that you want to answer that you're really passionate about. So that's the first thing. Secondly, is having a system, organized system, because it can be very easy to fall behind when you have life happening to you. There's going to be a lot of reading, yes. There's also going to be a lot of writing, and that's not to deter people, but just the reality of it. That I've done I think the most writing I've ever done in my life, and it was 5 years I was in glasses.
5 years? Okay.
At least, yeah. And then the dissertation. Now, for me, I was a little bit longer, and I'll be honest, because I had other, distractions. Because at that time, I still teach part time, but at that time, I right in the middle of when I finished my coursework, I was hired full time as tenure track at a community college, which is I love that. However, one of the things that they didn't really tell you is that they kind of own you, here. So my life was pretty much consumed with the full-time teaching position, and I kind of just let the dissertation go on the back burner. And then a few years after that, I found myself back working for my PhD. I was like, now let me complete it, because I don't want to be one of those statistics that was like the ABD all board dissertation, because that's really I worked this hard, I might as well go all the way now. So the important thing is to have a schedule, have a consistency, and just anybody can do it. I'm not. It's not that you just really have to want to do it. I wouldn't do it for the prestige alone. I wouldn't do it to please other people, because then that's going to be a struggle. Because there's going to be a lot of hard. There's going to be a lot of difficult work. Sometimes coming in. I don't want to say difficult. It's not impossible. It's definitely doable. But I would say that the first thing was really focus. Is this what you want to do?
Yes, right. If you want to do something, you will figure out how to make it happen.
It will work. It will work. It will work. Even if that means
what was your dissertation about?
The same topic is related to my book, although it was a little more academically. So I examined self-defeating behavior in performing artists, and I used the different variables in my book: self-efficacy, self-esteem, personality traits, fear of success. So, but it was much more academic than my book. Much more heavier in a research side.
Well, it has to be.
It has to be, and it's for that audience. And it's hard because I had a lot of my friends and family would say, "I want to read your dissertation," and they took like first 2 pages and like, "No, I'm not."
Never mind. No.
Yeah, never mind. So I was like, okay, well, I need to turn this into something that's more readable for a general audience.
And that's when you wrote Rise Above the
above the
Script,
script.
Confronting
Yeah.
Self-Doubt and Mastering Self-Sabotage for a Performing Artist. Just want to get
Yes.
your plug
Yeah.
in there for your book again. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the crux of the book came in, was from the dissertation, the
Right.
knowledge.
Awesome.
And
Well,
so,
that is a great accomplishment, getting your PhD, but also getting your book published. So what makes you feel like you belong?
what makes me feel like I belong is I can make a difference in other people's lives. I can be part of a community, and that is what kind of fuels me every day. The fact, as a talent agent, I can help artist dreams come true. As a student, I can inspire them, empower them to learn psychology, become excited about psychology, excited about learning, and even realize their potential. And even as a hypnotist and NLP practitioner, I can sometimes help others overcome limiting beliefs.
You mentioned hypnotist. Tell us more about that subject, because I know there are people that woo.
Yeah, and we can thank the TV shows and movies for all of that. And most people, when they think hypnosis, they think of somebody hanging a pocket watch, swinging a pocket watch, and getting someone to drop down and start cooking like a chicken.
Yes.
That's all for show. What I do more on the clinical side of hypnosis is working with the subconscious mind. So putting someone in a flow state, in a state of alertness and relaxation. And so what it works again with the subconscious mind. So it kind of works at the source of limiting beliefs. Like, what is the source of the limiting belief, and then kind of correcting that and helping a person steer clear of that limiting belief anymore. And so it's like it's a very natural state. Like we go into hypnosis several times a day. It's what some psychologists will call the flow state, where it's just where you kind of lose your perception of time and you just get so engrossed into something.
Would
So
it be the same as like you're driving to somewhere you always go, and then you get there and you go, wait, how did I get here? I don't remember driving.
that's exactly it. Or you watch a movie and you get so caught up in the movie, and even though you're setting down in the beginning, you know that it's a movie, but you still get caught in the emotion. You start laughing, you start crying, or sometimes if it's such a good movie, you don't realize 3 hours just went by.
Right.
So you went into a mini trance, or you read a good book and you get caught up in the story. You started imagining the story. You use your imagination. You daydream. That's it's a hypnotic trance. It's the same principle. We're just doing it by design here. Like in a hypnotic session.
Well, we have two dialogues going on. We have the one that we can hear out loud and the one that's underneath talking to us. And so this is an opportunity to have a conversation with that under voice, the voice that we don't hear, and get it to say the right things to yourself.
Of
Am I
course.
understanding it right?
Absolutely. And it's that voice, that inner voice that can sometimes pop in there. Even that we're not constantly, even verbally saying to ourselves. And we always have that voice in our head. And I even say comically to people, when I say this to people, and if you think to yourself, I don't have a voice in my head. Well, case in point, there it is.
There it is. I just told you don't have it.
Even if you sit there and start thinking, what's this guy talking about? Well, that's your voice.
That's
So sometimes that we need to rein that in control a little bit and control that and empower that. And that's where hypnosis can come in and hypnotherapy can come in.
Are there different habits or techniques that just on your own you could work on to work on your inner voice?
Sure. Well, the one thing is to correct every time a thought comes in that might not be entirely positive, reframe it right away. That's one thing. Also, another thing that you can do in kind of like a self-hypnosis NLP technique is visualization. Visualization is extremely powerful. So you visualize or imagine yourself. Let's say you're an actor, you have an audition coming in, you're a student, you have a test coming up, or you have a presentation to give. Think to yourself, imagine yourself watching. You're sitting in a movie theater watching yourself on screen, and then watching that going very, very well. And then not only use and not only just watching it, but hearing it and feeling it. So using all your senses.
Mhm. Is
And
there
really,
scientific evidence that that impact is there?
100% yes. No, it doesn't replace technical training or actual studying, or actual practice, but it does help with getting rid of limiting beliefs, because the brain, and science and studies have backed this up, the brain does not know the difference between imagination and reality.
That's an important, wait, say that again, because that's important.
The brain does not know the difference between reality and your imagination. So think about this way: how you can get yourself worked up over something that never even happened. You think of something in your head, and you start getting really like that knot in your stomach, and it really feels real, but it never happened. So
Mm,
if we can do it that way, why can't we do it from the positive side?
we can.
We
We just,
can. Yeah, we just have to trust ourselves.
right, right. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, this is also good. I do have my third question though. What is your favorite quote? You
My
wrote,
favorite.
yes, your favorite quote. Do you want to say it, or do you want me to read it for you?
You can read it, and I'll reflect on that.
You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop, by Rumi. What makes that your favorite, and how does that impact your life?
Because we are not just insignificant people. We have important things to do. We're all set out to do things. Like whether it's to, work in as a teacher, as a host, whatever it is, we all have something to contribute. We all have a story to tell. We all have such complex life stories. We're not just insignificant. Another word that I'll kind of leave the viewers, listeners to, is when people say, "Yeah, I'm just learning." No, you're learning. You're not just. Get the word "just" out of your vocabulary,
That
because
is,
you're not
yes,
just that. You are. So you are
just and
significant.
but is another word that I want to get out.
Yeah. So one thing that we say with actors, one of the rules of improv is to always say yes and. So so for example, let's say you see something you want to buy, and rather than saying I want to buy this but I'm broke, what you could say is I want to buy this and I can't afford it right now. Because when you say the word and rather than but, it kind of starts your wheels turning. Like, well, how can I work to afford that? So I want to do this and I have a lot of work to do. So that's one. Another thing I will say is also avoid the words I have to.
Ah, yes.
So, like for example, if I want to take a walk, so I say, and rather than saying I have to get up in the morning to take a walk, because I get to take a walk in the morning, or I
There are
get to
plenty of
do my
people
work.
don't get to walk. They're in a wheelchair.
Yes,
They don't have legs. You
exactly.
get to go on a walk. Yeah. The other word that we need to remove from our vocabulary is try. And I
Hmm.
think you've made reference to it. I'm trying to learn how to. No, you're not. You're learning how to.
Yeah, try. No, don't say I'll try your best. You will do your best, because when you say the word try, you're automatically signifying to your subconscious mind, I'm not going to do it. It's not going to happen. So I will do this. I will do my best. I will, accomplish this, because when you say try, it's like maybe, maybe not.
Right.
And
Okay. So we have talked about not using these words, just, but, try, have to.
yes,
Any other vocabulary we need to erase?
just say the word can't, but I would definitely say those four would be powerful.
If
I,
we could
I would
just
I would
master
encourage
that.
all of you, just for 7 days, or
Mm.
just try to change it and see
Oh,
if it
no,
does
no.
change.
Just do it. Don't
Just do
try.
it. Yeah, don't try it.
Don't
Just do it.
try.
Yeah, just do it. And you'll see changes. You will see changes happen.
Okay.
Even if they're small, small changes are. That's another thing about with the quote. Like, you're not just. Even small changes are powerful. Small, tiny shifts, because they add up over time, and they make a monumental change. So even if you notice a slight shift in a day or two or three of doing this, that's still a win. Keep going.
Well, it's going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. there's so much here that we could just keep going on and on, but we have other things to do, and we have other things to do. Look at that. I need to be conscious.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, so you just caught me on the other thing too. So,
well, before we close, do you have any final words, parting words that you would like to share with the belongers?
I always say, remember your why. When it comes to your motivation or why when it comes time to focusing on what am I doing in my life, focus on your why. Why did you choose this profession? And really connect to that. And don't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let that go out of your mind. Always connect to your why, connect to your passion. And know the source. Like a lot of actors, they tell me they want to bring characters to they want to tell stories. So remember that. No matter how tough it gets, you're there to tell stories. As an educator, most educators, they want to make a difference. Just keep that in mind. Even when the days get frustrating, I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to do, and just keep powering.
And you will. Just being here, you're making a difference, because the world would have a hole in it if you're not here.
Yeah, exactly.
And for anyone who wants to get your book, Rise Above the Script, where do they find that? On Amazon?
Yes, it's on Amazon. It's available in paperback, Kindle, as well as audiobook.
Awesome. So when you get to go out for a walk, you can listen to the book on tape. Oh, to our amazing guest, Dr. Albert, thank you. And to our listeners, belongers, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember, you belong. This is Dea Irby with Here Where You Belong podcast, signing off. Bye now.
Thank you, Dea. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Here Where You Belong. We hope today's episode has inspired you to embrace the beauty of belonging in your own life. Remember, no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. Join us again next time for more insightful conversations and heartwarming stories. Until then, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember that you belong.